I correct myself up. This video is to answer the question, how important is time in human design? And my initial answer is exceptionally. And then I drop into a little bit more softening and realize that it really depends. It depends on two key factors. One, how deep you want to dive into your human design. And the other is going to depend on the day you were born. So some days it doesn't make a huge amount of difference at all to the high level type. And other days it makes a massive difference. So there's two sample charts that I have pulled out, sample 1 and sample 3, and we're going to ignore the fact that I can't count. And so in sample 1, throughout the day, the high level type changes from ego manifestor to self-projected projector, to self-projected projector, emotional projector, and then emotional projector again. And then the last one is pure generator. So you can see on that particular day, it makes a huge difference to that high level type. It moves through manifestor, projector, two different types of projectors, so self-projected projector and emotional projector, and then into generator. So for someone even looking for the surface level of human design, time is going to make a huge difference. In sample 3, and yes, I skipped sample 2, we've worked out I can't count, the high level type doesn't change at all throughout the day. So emotional manifesting generator, and so on through the day. Once we start diving down a little bit deeper, we start to see more and more changes. So in sample 1, which had the significant change through the high level type, we also see profile changes. So moving from 1-4 to 2-4, and then into 3-5. And then in the sample 3, we go from 1-3 to 1-4 to 2-4. And so the profile changes. We also see differences in the splits. So in sample 1, the definition is single, single, large split, and then small split. In sample 3, we have a small split, but with 2 options instead of just the 1. That same small split with 2 options, back to a single small split with 1 option, and then a small split with 2 options, again, different to previously. So we've got 8:59 at, that must be 12 noon, and 7-8 at almost midnight. And then we've got 8 and 8:59 and 8 throughout. So again, we're seeing differences in that. For sample number 1, that split shifts as well. So from a single split to a large split, and then that small split with just gate that small split with just gate 34 needing to tap in to close it. What doesn't seem to have changed in either of these sample charts is the incarnation cross. I imagine there are days where that incarnation cross, I know there are days where the sun will transition from gate to gate. So in these ones, what we're seeing the sun do is transitioning from the lines. That's the shift that we're seeing in the profile as it's changing lines throughout the day. The sun can only move through up to 3 lines in a day at most. Generally speaking, it will only transit through 2. In sample number 1, we have the personality sun moving through 1, 2, and 3. So at just after midnight, at 10 minutes past midnight, it is in line 1. And it's gate 42 in this instance. That's almost beside the point. So just past midnight, we're at line 1. Somewhere between midnight and 6 a.m., and I'm not going to look up the geeky details because that's going beyond even my level of geek, it shifts to line 2, but I'm going to guess that it does it probably closer to 1 or 2 a.m., that shift from 1 to 2, and then we get 2 consistently, so 6 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 p.m. are all 2s, and then when we go to 5 minutes to midnight, 23:55, we get to a line 3. So at most, you will have 3 lines from the sun, which is what goes into our profile. So on sample number 1, we see the sun in the personality side move through lines 1, 2, and 3. And we see the design sun, and this is far more common, move from 4 to 5. That one single shift in the day is, so I think it's every 6 days we move through 3 lines. I could be wrong though. And so in that 24-hour period, it is possible for the sun to move through either 2 lines or 3 lines. So irrespective of whether it's a 2-line day or a 3-line day, there's always going to be 2 to 3 different profiles. So in sample number 1, the profiles are 1, 4, 2, 4, and 3, 5. And I suspect if I played in between those numbers, we may actually get a 3, 4 profile in there as well. Again, I'm not going to go into that level of depth and that level of geek. So you're going to get between 3 and 4 profiles on that particular day. Now, in sample number 3, we've got 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4, 2, 4. And so there's, again, those 3. So 1, 4, 2, 4. Yeah, so you're only going to get, so that because the sun only shifts through the 2 lines in this particular 24-hour period, the personality sun going from 1 to 2 and the design sun going from 3 to 4, there is a moment. So 1, 3 is what we start with. Then the design sun moves into 4, so we get the 1, 4. Then the personality sun moves into the 2, so we get the 2, 4, and that remains consistent. So profile is always going to change depending on the time of day. And there is always going to be at least one shift in the day, if not multiple shifts. The definition will shift depending on which gates are being activated. So in sample number 3, the split remains small the whole way throughout, and all that changes is the gates that close and bridge that gap. So we start with small with a bridge of 8, small 8:59, small 8:59, small 8, and then small 7 and 8. So the split remains consistent in that chart. However, if we come back to sample number 1, we've got single, single, large split, and then small split of 34. So we see a greater range. The strategy and themes will change in relation to whether or not the high level type changed. So in sample number 1, each of those is changing as we're moving through. So we've got the initial, inform and initiate, then we've got wait for recognition, and then we've got respond. And then the themes, peace, anger, success, bitterness, satisfaction, frustration. So there's 3 on that day. We look at sample number 3, there's no change in that because there is no change in the high level type. So if you're only going to do the high level type and play at that level, and all you're looking for is your strategy and authority, which is where a lot of readers will tell you to start with your strategy and your authority, and you were born on a day where those shifts weren't significant, the time is less of a factor. If, however, you are born on a day where those timing shifts are significant, the time will matter more, even if you just want to play at that higher level type layer and just focus on the strategy and authority. I've heard people say to focus just on that for the first 12 months to 7 years. My own preference, and I'm guessing if you are in my course, your preference is to dive deeper and to see more than just the surface level, at which point the time will matter. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, it's your call. It'll depend on how deep you want to dive into it, and it will depend on that day. Now, if you want to dive deeper, this is where we start to see significant changes. So if we look at either sample 1 or sample 3, and what I'll do is I'll just alternate between them as I go down, we'll see significant changes throughout. So if we, and this is playing off the deeper structure. In this video, I'm not going to pull out where they're pulling it from. I'm just going to point out that the deeper structure changes significantly based on the time of day. So in sample number 1, I might do the first 5 here, and then I'll do the rest in sample 3. Sample number 1, we've got brain goes from passive to active to passive to active, and it keeps swapping between them. Determination, alternating, hot, nervous, direct, open. Cognition, inner vision, taste, feeling, taste, outer vision. You can see that there are significant, and if we mapped this out across the entire day, there's even more subtleties to it. So when we start getting into the deeper structure, the exact time has a significant change. The environment's fairly stable in this one. I'm just reading through. Yep, so Shaw's artificial all the way across. Environment style, observer all the way across. And then I'm just going to go down to sample 3 for the next layer. Let me just scroll my screen that way. You guys won't see any difference because I'm recording and then adding in slides. So we've got receptive, receptive, strategic, receptive, strategic. So again, it's that alternation almost. Then we've got need, innocence, hope, desire, guilt, acceptance, meditation. I was trying to work out if it was meditation or mediation. Acceptance, meditation, security, judgment, uncertainty. Oops, I just want to pull that one across just a fraction. And then we've got trajectory, novice, observed, theist, follower, conditioner, focused, focused, peripheral, peripheral, focused. And so you can see, again, they're alternating. The view is wanting, power, 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 power. Transferred motivation, fear, desire, guilt, innocence, hope. Again, quite a significant shift there. And then the transferred view, survival, personal. So there's some of the shifts that will happen if the time is inaccurate. And so for those of us that don't know, or for anyone that doesn't know their time, there are ways to navigate this. So you can do similar to what I've done for these sample charts and create yourself a couple of touch points through the day. Now, for the samples, I didn't go any deeper. I didn't look for the exact timing shifts, and I didn't play too strategically with it because I was just simply looking at that. Predominantly for these, I was just looking for the contrasts for you so that we could have a sample that showed the high level type not changing, which is what sample 3 is. It is a date and it's not a person that I know. There's no relation. And the first one is a person that I know that I didn't know the time of, that I was looking to discover and help navigate through it. And so on that first one, those differences in time create significant differences in the type. They also create significant differences in the defined and undefined centers. So you'll notice in sample 3, if you're looking at body graphs, the defined centers remain the same throughout. In fact, in sample number 3, the channel differences are very, very minimal. So consistently through the day, we have 2343, 3536, 214, and 463. There is one channel that comes in, and that is 1762. So the 10 minutes past midnight and the 6 a.m. have the 1762. But consistently through the day, that person has 4 channels that are identical: the 2343, the 3536, the 214, and the 463. And they don't change. They're just there consistently. If we look at the first chart, and this is where we can see what are the commonalities throughout the day. So even sample number 1 has consistently, I believe, I just need to scroll consistently through the day, it has 1020 and 0108. So awakening and inspiration, those 2 channels are there consistently. It then has 3 channels that are not consistent through the day. So 2145, the money line at midnight, no extras at 6 a.m. At midday, we have 3955, the emoting channel. It's still there at 6 p.m. And then at 11 p.m. or closer to midnight was the timing that I was using, the 3955 drops off and it is replaced by the 4253. There are still those consistencies. So if I was working with this person, we would first look at those strengths. So 1020 and 0108 or 18 awakening and inspiration, they are consistent for this person the whole way through. Their incarnation cross is consistent the whole way through. And then I would explore with them which of the themes make more sense for them, which of the strategies make more sense for them. And then we could also look at the different defined centers. So I would do some extraction work and using my intuition to tap into what's conditioned and what's innate. And so, for example, in the first chart here, this person has a defined ego center. Now, that can show up as a conditioning or it could show up as innate. And so we'd explore the ego center together. We'd also explore the root and the emotion center because they come in and come out. We'd also explore the sacral center because they come in and they come out. My invitation to this person would be to journal for 90 days, 60 to 90 days, working with the moon transits and see which energies come through and where they don't notice it. So, for example, the ego is defined by gate 21 at midnight. And then we've got 3955. So looking at those channels that come in and come out, highlighting where they are in the moon cycle and any other planetary cycles. This is starting to get a little bit more geeky. Highlighting where they are in the moon transits for the month and checking in. Did they notice an energy shift that day? And having them do it 2 or 3 times because there'll be other energies happening and other things going on, and just checking in. And so to navigate this is not a fast process. We can get a fairly good estimate in a session or 2, and then it's the game of experimentation, which we're all on, whether we know the time of birth or not. We are all in a space of experimenting, working out what works for us, because while we might be a manifestor generator, for myself, for example, my version of manifestor generator will play out differently to someone else's based on my channels, based on my conditioning, based on so many other factors. And so the whole idea is to experiment and discover. I hope this has answered the question for you. Why does time matter when time doesn't matter? So if you're only dabbling in this and you just want your high-level type and by chance you were born on a day where that doesn't shift particularly much, the time doesn't matter. If you're wanting to dive deeper into human design, you're wanting to look at the deeper structure, whether you were born on a fairly still day or you were born on a more moving day, it will matter because that deeper structure changes either way. And if you don't know your time, it is not the end of the world. It can be worked out through experimentation on your own part, hiring a coach to help you with it if you need it. And at the end of the day, these are simply a prompt for us to go and experiment in the world. And so if you don't know what time you were born, you didn't know anything about human design, any one of these pieces. So we could look at strategy. So there's 3 strategies in sample 1. There's 4 strategies in general. We've got the respond, the wait for recognition and invitation, the inform and initiate, and then we've got the strategy of wait the 29 days and utilize leveraging moving through each of the moon phases and the lunar strategy. If you knew nothing about human design and you didn't have your body graph, you could experiment with all 4 of those strategies and decide which one works better for you. There is no reason for us to get stuck in this. Human design is a gift because it gives us a fast track to uncover that without needing to do as much experimentation. It gives us a guide of where to start our experimentation. And then we get to go on our own path and discover for ourselves what is right for us. What is our design? What is our personality? Who is it that we were born to be? And human design is a guide for that. It took a snapshot of us at the time of our birth. It is not fixed. It is not set in stone. And we get to experiment and play and discover for ourselves. I hope this answered the question for you. If you have any other questions, please pop them in the comments below. If you are watching this on YouTube, if you are in the Create a Life You Love with Human Design course, send me a message or connect with me in the ways that you normally connect with me. Ask your questions. and I will respond to your questions. My own strategy is one of response, and I do really well with questions, and I get to share my wisdom. I get to lead. I get to tap into my internal knowledge and then share it with the world. So this was the answer to the question, does time really matter in human design? And I trust it served. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope we connect soon.